What's up, horror fans? Pete here from the Lassercast, where me and my good friend over there, Danny, Dr. Zayas God, Torkel, review horror movies and streaming shows. Danny and I just had like a 10-15 minute conversation about Twin Peaks. It's probably our favorite thing that's on Paramount Plus right now. And we're going to shift gears and talk about something that maybe we're not so excited about on Paramount Plus. I don't know, Danny, you're saying that episode 6 was a good one for you? Of Yellowjackets?
I did a solo review last week of episode 5 because we had technical difficulties. You're now in your new home, and you have a pretty swank little like man cave now. But we tried recording last Saturday morning, and it was rife with technical issues, even more so than normal.
Yes.
Right. I put up a video about episode 5, and I kind of felt for episodes 4 and 5 the same way, where I thought they were good episodes. There were parts of the episodes that I really liked, but then there were also parts of it that I really didn't like. And it just felt like the show was treading water at a point where it can't tread water anymore. Right. And my thought about episode 6 is that, okay, now something finally friggin' happens, which I'm sure we'll talk about, like, spoiler for the ending of episode 6.
Yeah.
But yeah, something finally friggin' happens. There's a resolution to a season-long story with Coach Ben, and it's like finally the second half of season 3 looks like it is taking shape. And it actually has me excited about what we can potentially see the last 4 episodes of season 3. Yes, I thought episode 6 might be the best episode of season 3. And I even said to my sister, because, my sister and I, we do our normal Saturday, like 30-minute to 45-minute phone call with each other about Yellowjackets. And I said to her, like, this might be the most excited I've felt about a Yellowjackets episode since almost the end of season 1. So in that regard, if we're going to talk about episode 5, less excited. But if we're going to talk about episode 6, which we are, then yes, I do think the show finally got back on that, like, oh shit, okay, now we got some like juicy stuff to talk about kind of train.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's unpack that, because to me, I feel like episode 5 and 6 and this whole season in general, it's just like there's that just keep going, and most of them are uninteresting to me. Sherry and I had so much fun covering the first season of the show, and then we felt like there was a decline. She never ended up watching the finale of the second season. But then in this third season, I am just like checked out. Like, you often talk about maybe like looking at your phone or like doing something else while you're watching something versus like when you're really excited and really paying attention. And for this show, I'm in that mode where I'm like kind of looking at my phone. I'm kind of checked. It's very, very sad because I believe in the creators, and the show had like so much potential in the first season. But what I wanted to kind of talk to you about, Danny, and I want to get your opinion on this. I think that when you tell a story where normal people become cannibals and they like hunt other people and kill other people, I think that when you get to the point of them being cannibals, that's sort of the money shot. That's kind of the like, okay, we're here in this awful time. Now it's the end. Let's resolve this. And they were cannibals by like, I don't know, the second or third episode of the second season. So like there's many shows nowadays where characters would be considered unlikable, right? Like they're the bad guys. They do despicable things, but you still like it. With this, I do find myself not liking the Yellowjacket characters in the past or the present these days.
Well, so I want to just kind of, and this is something that my sister and I talked about today, is I think there's a difference between they are cannibals versus they are eating human flesh to stay alive. And I think that in season 2, when Jackie's body burnt up nice like a medium rare steak. They
Right.
were in the middle of the winter. They were out of food, and it was like okay, we're gonna have to do this to survive. And then with Javi, it was very similar. It was the winter. They didn't have any food left, and it was the wilderness gave them a meal.
Yeah.
This is the first episode. Episode 6 is
Yeah.
the first time that we saw them with um a surplus of food choose to eat a person when they didn't have to. And I think
Right.
so I think they truly do become cannibals in this episode. This
Right.
last episode, episode 6, whereas they can't argue anymore. We're like the movie Alive,
Yep.
where about which is based on a true story.
Right.
I don't think anybody calls those rugby players, I think it was rugby players. I don't think anybody calls them cannibals. They were just surviving, and they did something they never would have ever done before, but
Yeah.
they had to do it. And that was the Yellow Jackets up until episode 6. And it was
Yes.
kind of like, well, now we got to do what the wilderness wants us to do, and then we're going to dance and scream about it, and we're going to put his head on a stick, and um and I think this is really, that's why I look at episode 6 as really a turning point for not just this season but maybe the whole show in general. Also, I think, and I know like you wanted to talk about episode 5, but like I think that the shift in leadership going from Nat, who, and this is something we talked about, Nat being dead as an adult, she's basically one of the only likable younger versions of the Yellow Jackets that we have left.
Right. 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 There you
But
go.
and which is hard for us when Sophie Thatcher is great, but we know that Juliette Lewis is gone from the show.
Right.
She's dead.
Right.
So yeah, so that's annoying. But the shift now from Nat to Shauna, I think we're going to see a whole new level of insanity and cannibal violence, because Shauna is at this point the most crazy of all of them. I think so. I think like she's very, and that goes for adult Shauna as well as teenage Shauna.
So what an interesting phrase for you to say that you said that Shauna is the most crazy, right? Because I think someone could make an argument that Thaisa is the most crazy in the modern day. You could make an argument that Lottie was the most crazy back then, and she's kind of more adjusted and dead in the modern day too. But you brought up the movie Alive, and I was actually going to bring up the movie Alive as well. But then besides that, I was going to bring up the movie Ravenous, right? I think that like there's many different ways to tell cannibal stories, right? And Alive is about people having to resort to cannibalism, and Ravenous is people that resorted to cannibalism at one point, but then saw like the potential of it or the power from it, and then they like chose it even though they didn't need to be cannibals. So that's like what we're dealing with on this show. It's exactly what you just said. We're like they're choosing to eat people now versus being forced to eat people. And I think that, like I was saying before, we see certain types of stories, especially when we cover horror, right? We are like, oh, it's this kind of story. Oh, it's this kind of story. And then now this is going to happen. We're in the third act. This is going to happen. And I don't think that you dwell with cannibal characters for a whole movie usually, or a whole season of a TV show. Like when Texas Chainsaw Massacre, when it's like they're cannibals and stuff, we covered so many of those fucking movies. Like them being cannibals and sitting down to eat, it's always in the end of the movie. There's like thrilling parts before then. And I just don't know if I want to dwell with them. It's kind of like, okay, we get the point. They like, I said money shot before, right? It's kind of like you finish doing that, and then you're like, okay, well, I'm going to go take a nap. Like that's the phase we're in right now.
Yeah. Well, when I say Shauna is the most crazy, though, I look at it like Lottie and Thaisa have like medical conditions. Like
Okay.
they are like Thaisa has like dissociative disorder.
Yeah.
Lottie was on medication. Shauna to me is not Dahmer. Who's the other? She's Ted
Ed
Bundy.
Gein? Oh, Ted
No, no,
Bundy.
no.
Okay.
She's Ted Bundy. She is a psychopath to the point where she can put on the facade of looking like normal suburban mom,
Yeah.
who has friends and who's part of the PTA and all of this stuff,
Yeah.
but but she is hiding in plain sight,
Right.
and she is a multiple murderer who, like, it just feels like her go-to reaction to whenever something goes wrong is to violently act out. And that to me makes her the craziest one. There's no underlying medical condition to explain Shauna other than just, obviously she lost the baby. Obviously Jackie was her best friend, and the forced to eat her to survive. But she is just crazy, and I think she is the one that tends to be the most psychopathic of anybody there. Like, my sister and I were talking about, like, the ending of that episode. Like, you might think episode 6 now, and again, I'm just going to say spoilers right now, but at the end of episode 6, they're found. And
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sure you got a great point, but I was going to say I don't think this is them being found and being
oh,
brought back to. Yeah. Go ahead. Go
so
ahead.
so they are found.
Mm-hmm.
Random hikers, birders just come upon them while they're doing like a wilderness chant, having just eaten Coach, who Natalie like mercy kills in a really amazing scene, I thought.
Yeah.
And like my whole thing, and I said, to my sister, I was like, it, that can't be, like, that should be them being rescued. But we know it can't be because they talk about them surviving multiple winters. So the only logical next step is that the new antler queen, Shauna, is going to probably murder these fucking people
Yes.
and eat them. And
Yes.
and that's where we're going to get that tape, which the tape that they play has Lottie's scream on it, and it's probably like a 30-year-old tape from the wilderness of people that they kill and eat.
Yeah.
So that goes to show you that they have now come to a point where they could be rescued, but they're almost going to actively choose not to be rescued and
Right.
to continue to live in the wilderness. And I'm pretty sure that is going to fraction the group even more. It's probably going to lead to more, maybe a Yellowjacket civil war, um, which takes us back all the way to that first episode where you have, Pit Girl falling in. My
Right.
sister thinks that Pit Girl is like probably the hiker's girlfriend or wife.
Oh, really? Okay.
So,
That's
it,
interesting.
yeah, but that, like, that ending was such a moment of like, oh my God, there's other people.
Yeah.
And it reinvigorated me
Yes.
to, like, now I can't fucking wait till next week. And
Right.
I can't wait to see what level of depravity the younger versions of them go to. Um, yeah, I almost like this is the first time all season long where I'm approaching the next week's episode with a level of optimism.
Okay. Yeah.
Whereas
Okay.
like most of this season, I've been like, boy, if Pete and I weren't covering this show, I'd probably just stop watching it.
Right.
And
Exactly.
my sister's wife gave up. Like she pulled a Sherry. Like they were watching this together every week, and
Right.
then and my sister's wife just got to a point where she's like, "Yeah, I'm done. I'm not interested anymore." But my sister is like hooked. So my sister watches, and then like my sister actually goes and like she like goes on like I guess like the Yellow Jacket TikTok page and the Yellow Jacket YouTube page, and she watches like deep dive things. That's why I always bring her up, and I tell her that like when she watches our videos that like I'm going to shout her out because a lot of what
Good.
I say is so like her big thing a couple episodes ago.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I ever got to tell you this because of our
Right.
bad connections, but my sister like 3 episodes ago was convinced 100%
Mhm.
that there's just absolutely nothing supernatural anymore with the show,
Hmm.
and
Okay.
and that there never has been anything supernatural with the show, that it's just coincidence and decision making. And I have been fully converted to that mindset,
Really?
especially especially given what we saw in episode 6 and where I think it's going to go in episode 7,
Okay. Okay.
where they make the choice to eat the coach when they
Mhm.
don't need the food. They
Right.
make they are, making sacrifices to the wilderness. Like Thaisa, this is my sister's other big idea.
Okay.
And I'm not sure if this is her idea or if she read this somewhere, but she thinks that Thaisa's other has been in charge of Thaisa in the present day for a very
Mhm.
long time.
Yes, I 1000% agree with your sister, especially with that weird scene with Van. Like, what the fuck was she even doing? Like, she was on an old phone or something, and she was calling somebody.
Well, I also said maybe that's why in that like totally random, hey, remember Ty has a family moment a couple
Yeah,
episodes ago?
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
why did the son be like, mommy, and then 30 seconds later be like, I don't want to be near you? Because
Right.
maybe the kid sees right through the
Yes.
facade
The
and he's
facade.
like,
Yes.
that's not my mother.
Yeah.
That's not my mother. It looks like her, but it's not her. I want to go home.
Right.
And so I think we're going to find out that Ty killed Lottie.
Okay. Yeah, I think so too. Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's going to be a thing because they brought Lisa back,
Yeah.
who again it took me a while to figure out who exactly that was. I was like,
Right.
oh yeah, she was Colt Girl from season 2.
Right.
Okay,
Right. People
yeah,
that like had theories. I remember at one point watching season two, people thought that that was Shauna's child, but that they had been like transgender, like they had changed their genders or whatever. I mean, there's so much speculation, so much fantasy booking, right? But I mean, there's a lot to unpack out of everything you just said, right? But one thing I want to really address there is what's interesting to me is that Summer's there, and they have the ability to essentially walk back or try to find civilization, but they're staying planted in this one area. And I think that's interesting because I mean, spring starts up. They could say, "Hey, it's spring. We have months and months to just try to get home," but they choose not to.
they could send Nat and Travis,
Yeah,
who are known trackers at this
yeah,
point
right,
from last season. They were able to like track and go out and hunt in during the winter and
right,
make their way back. They could send them out and be like, go find civilization and then bring them back to us.
right.
And they don't. They build their huts and they're like, well, that's it. And yeah, it's very strange. It feels like they there's like this collective um psychopathy or like mental breakdown of the group where they kind of just give in that this is their life now, and
Yeah,
they almost give up on civilization and they're like, this is our new civilization.
yeah, yeah. It's funny because I think I've used the term money shot like twice already this episode, and I'm actually going to use it one more time now. But there's a reason why. It's kind of like, I mean, I need an official like literary term for this, where basically you kind of like reach this climax point, right? Like, because I think that I remember reading that the show, part of the inspiration for the show is Lord of the Flies. And that's pretty obvious, right? And Lord of
Yeah.
the Flies is the inspiration. With Lord of the Flies, things get increasingly worse and worse as it goes on, but then it hits this resolution and they get rescued. Um, like, I feel like we've kind of surpassed that point in this show where things are increasingly worse, where they're like, oh, we're going to kill Coach Ben. He tried to set us on fire. Like, I don't like the rationale or the thinking of pretty much every single Yellow Jacket teenager. You know, all of them, they've just kind of all crossed the line. And I'm like, yeah, I want something bad to happen to them. I kind of wish that Coach Ben was trying to kill them versus not. And I think that's one thing that we should talk about too is at one point he tells Nat, I found these rags. I put them in the cracks in the cabin. I set that fire. But that's a complete lie, right? A fabrication.
Well, I think he was just trying to get her to kill him, and he was saying, because obviously last episode, episode 5, when he's up against a tree and he has a chance to come clean when he's about to be shot and killed, he doesn't. So he obviously didn't burn the cabin down, and I really hope they don't leave that as like an unchecked off plot point.
Agreed.
Like, I hope we get some type of resolution where it's either Thaisa or it's Shauna, or we just see in a vision maybe that it was just a fluke thing. Like in the vision, Van is sitting in the chair in front of the fire, and just a spark flies out of the fireplace and sets the cabin on fire. And I'm fine if that's it, but I want to know. Like I don't think that's me being greedy as a viewer. When you're watching television and they hook you with these plot points, it's only fair to pay them off. So yeah, I'm hoping that we get a final resolution to who or what burned the cabin down.
Agreed.
But I'm 100% convinced that it wasn't the coach. And I said, we kind of jokingly said this all season that like we feel bad as two, white guys reviewing a show that is completely female dominated.
Right.
Like finding that the best, our favorite character and the character we identify the most with is the lone guy on the show.
Right.
But I think that's in part, it's a tribute to Steven Kruger, who's the actor. And like now that he is officially gone, which we knew was coming,
right.
I really hope that this is like the show that launches him into his next show.
Yeah. Because this show has done that for multiple people. I mean, Sophie Thatcher, who plays Thaisa, the young one, she's pretty big right now too.
Yeah, Jasmine Savoy Brown, but she was in, I think like Scream 5 came out or at the same time as Yellowjackets.
I remember seeing Yellowjackets and then seeing Scream 5 and be like, oh, Thaisa's in this. Okay.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, because I wasn't watching season 1. So that could be. I know Liv Hewson, who plays young Van, she was on Santa Clarita Diet.
Yes.
On Netflix, which one of my favorite, like whenever there's like a social media poll of like what show that got canceled would you want to bring back? My answers are always either Glow or Santa Clarita Diet.
Oh, 2 Netflix shows. Okay. Well, it sounds like you're into this show more than I am right now, Danny. And I guess my question I had for you is, you're convinced now that it's not supernatural at all?
I think if you go back to every episode, there is a rational explanation for everything that they might have hinted at a supernatural force.
Yeah.
Whether it be the Wendigo or the Wilderness or the Antler Queen or whatever it is, there's always just a rational explanation. Like the snow fell off the tree and happened to put out the fire and leave Jackie at a perfect medium rare. I actually don't remember but I don't remember the exact way that they did it because it was season one. But they do show that Travis's death was like some like weird kind of coincidental thing that leaves him being hanged. Uh, I think we're gonna find out that Lottie was, Lottie has a cult, but she's also crazy, and we know that she's on meds her entire life.
Yeah.
We know that Thaisa has an other. Is that a supernatural thing, or does she have dissociative identity disorder? You know,
Mm.
and you know, I think we're gonna find out that she just murdered Lottie. That no supernatural force. She's a murderer.
Mm-hmm.
The cook, the waiter who chases them down, he had a heart attack. Like no wilderness, no Queen of Hearts. She just like that guy just died of a heart attack. I I would have been for 2 seasons, 2.5 seasons, because really into this season, I think the show markets itself as a supernatural ish show.
Okay.
Like even like in the background, like the antler queen imagery is creepy, and you're meant to think of like
Wendigo.
Wendigo spirits, and
Right. Right.
so I think the show kind of wants the audience to go into that direction, but I think the further along we get and the deeper that we understand who these characters are, we start to just realize that they're a bunch of teenagers lost in the fucking woods, forced to eat their friends, and they go fucking crazy. Like even the other thing, the last few episodes, everything that happens in the cave.
Hmm.
There's gas in the cave. It's like a gas pocket, and it's giving them hallucinations.
Right.
So yeah, it's like Aquila walked across the coach as a bridge, but maybe that was just she got high and had a vision, you know?
Yes.
Uh,
Right. Like
so
Travis is taking mushrooms, right, in the forest.
Travis is taking mushrooms. There's always some rational explanation to explain the supernatural thing that happens.
Yes. Yes.
And I think especially when you get to them as adults, I think like we we were convinced for episodes on end that that guy Adam was some like devious guy who was out to expose the Yellowjackets and this and that. And
Right.
no, Shauna is just a fucking maniac, and she murdered the guy
Right.
and cut his body up and hid the pieces. Like that's it. Like I kind of think that's where we're gonna end up.
Yes. Well, let me ask you this. All this stuff that's happened in the present day with like there's a tape that's sent to Shauna. Lottie is killed. Someone tried to lock Shauna in the freezer. Somebody could have possibly locked or messed up with Shauna's brakes. Do you think that there's not like an extra person out there kind of doing suspicious shit?
I think I mean, we know that Hilary Swank is cast in
Oh,
the show,
that's true.
and
I
you
forgot about that. Yeah.
and it is weird that we're now 60% of the season done and we haven't seen the two-time Oscar winner.
Mm.
Uh that's a little strange, but we obviously know that there is a person out there, most likely another Yellow Jacket survivor, who is kind of teasing these things. The phone in the bathroom,
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah.
maybe the breaks, even though that was kind of explained away as just an accident. But
Hmm.
yeah, like I definitely think we're gonna find out that Hilary Swank is now. Who does Hilary Swank play? To me, like I thought it was gonna end up being Melissa,
Hmm.
because why would you spend all this time kind of making her a character this season when she was just girl in hat for 2 years?
Right.
if you're not going to bring her back in the present day,
Right.
I don't know. I don't think they would cast Hilary Swank to play. Who's the one that ratted out the coach?
Mari?
Mari. Like they're not gonna. She doesn't look enough like Mari. I don't think so.
I mean, so many people are convinced that Mari is the girl that falls in the pit in the first episode.
Yeah. I brought that up to my sister, and she was able to counter it with something, but I don't know.
Dude, we gotta get your
She's
sister
very.
on the show. Your sister knows her
I
shit, man.
know. I know.
Yeah.
She should. She should. Um. I think. Do you know who I think Melissa? If Melissa is alive, I think I said this to my sister. I don't know if I ever said it to you. Do you know who
Yeah.
Lake Bell is? The
Yeah,
actress.
of course, around Lake Bell. Yeah.
I feel like Lake Bell looks like an older version of the actress who plays Melissa.
Yes, I see that. I
But
totally see that. Yeah.
I could see that being Hilary Swank
Right.
as an adult.
Right.
But yeah, like at this point, if there's gonna be another new character, I want it. It's got to happen soon. There's 4 more episodes of season 3.
Yeah. Well, so this is good, speculation. We're talking about like stuff overall in the show. I kind of just want to talk about things that I don't like, and maybe you can counteract what I'm saying too, right? Like, because it sounds like you're more on board, you're more into it. To me, it's like when we're having a scene where Shauna and her family are kind of like looking into things, or like Shauna and Elijah Wood are going to see Lottie's father and they pretend to be cable people. It's just I don't give a fuck at all. Like I don't care.
I genuinely hated that entire scene in Lottie's father's
Yeah. Like
penthouse.
apartment. Yeah.
It felt like they took what should have been a very serious moment in the show and they played it off as like really bad slapstick comedy.
Yeah.
And it was, and I said this on my review, my sitting by myself in my room review of episode 5. I thought episode 5 was like a good episode for about 3/4 of the episode, but they spent almost 10 minutes in that like slapstick, stupid, like abusing a mentally ill old man, and it just felt so out of place for this show.
Right.
And I genuinely hate it. That might be my least favorite scene in Yellowjackets overall.
Yeah, well, I mean, I feel like there's multiple scenes in these 2 seasons, season 2 and season 3. Not in season 1 at all. Season 1 is tight as shit, man.
Yeah.
But like in the second season and the third season, there's quite a few scenes where it like kind of makes you cringe or you don't like it. Like all the stuff with the young detective who is trying to go out with Shauna's daughter. All that shit's lame. I mean, honestly, I feel like with Misty, right? With Misty, I feel like they always try to get some kind of special Misty line where they're like, oh, on social media, they're going to write this line and they're going to put some kind of like GIF or something with it, right? But then with Misty looking into this stuff and then Elijah Wood, all that stuff does not interest me at all. Misty was like so much more like thrilling and menacing in the first season to where you almost felt like she was the villain of the modern day story. And now it's just like she's kind of like just the comic relief. Danny, honestly, the stuff I dislike the most, which to me is so sad because the Thaisa stuff in the first season and even going into the second season a little bit, Thaisa as an adult, very, very interesting. That used to be the highlight of the adult stuff with me. Now Thaisa and Van just like, let's get dinner, let's get massages. It's like, I don't fucking care at all.
Yeah, I think that it's a case of like dragging your feet. Like, so not to carry this back, not to take our conversation back to Twin Peaks, but I was advised going into Twin Peaks as a 42-and-a-half-year-old who had never watched an episode that season 2 starts off really good and then it goes it gets really kind of like way out there and weird and silly, and it gets better towards the end. And a lot of people, you included, don't particularly like a lot of that. I didn't mind it as much because it almost reminded me of like the TV that I used to watch.
Oh no, it froze.
Oh no, did it? Am I?
It did, but keep going. The TV you used to watch what?
Oh, that like it like yes, there's this overarching story of Cooper is trying to catch Wyndham Earl, but we're gonna focus on um, Donna and James having an affair with this blonde woman, Mrs. Marsh, who has a mechanic brother that's actually her boyfriend, and like you know, Bobby and Bobby and Shelly are gonna have to take care of like paralyzed Leo for a while, and he's gonna like slapstick fall into cake. And it's like, while this is like ridiculous, and there's a lot of scenes that I'm kind of watching going like, yeah, this is kind of weird, and I don't know kind of how this fits in with everything else. They would always kind of get you back to that, like, there's always a scene with Cooper going after Wyndham Earl or talking about him, and it made me like, oh yeah, this is like how TV used to be, 22 episodes in a season. Not every episode is going to be about that main story. Sometimes we're going to get side character episodes. Sometimes we're going to get Monster of the Week episodes. And Yellowjackets only has 10 episodes in a season. So you can't, like, I feel like you have to serve the story, or you have to go, if you're gonna do like a Monster of the Week type side quest episode when you only have 10, it has to be fucking great. And I'm always, and I'll give you a perfect example of what I'm talking about. One of the worst episodes in the new form of television, which is like streaming seasons,
Right.
is an episode in season 2 of Stranger Things.
Oh, yes.
Where they, but what I will say is they tried something completely different. They went for, like, we all know what that was really. That was really like, let's get them interested so that we could do a spin-off.
Right.
Whereas back in like 1995 or even 2005, that would have been episode 11 of 23. And it would have been like, oh, 11 had enough and she ran off and she wanted to find another one of the experimented on kids. And she has like a side quest episode. Cool. Yeah. Next week, we'll get back to the Doppel Monster Gangers or whatever they're called. Yellowjackets has 10 episodes. Yeah. So it's like you have to serve the story. And if you're just doing like Thaisa and Van getting massages, and like, I know that it tried to serve the story more, and that's why I really did like episode 6 more. Yeah. Because I felt like everything kind of went back to the story. It actually felt like the young characters and the adult characters were in sync almost with each other. Where like, you know, like we're watching Shauna like become the leader, but also kind of go crazy as a Yellow Jacket, while we're watching Shauna as an adult, like move her family into a motel, all the while not telling them what's going on. And like if Shauna just started murdering people as an adult, it would not shock you at all at this point.
I agree completely. Yeah.
So so I just feel like it's finally getting to the point where I wanted it to get, where this whole season has felt like filler episodes, which you can't do when you only have 10.
Thank you. Yes, Danny, I agree. I mean, here's the thing. We cover Interview with the Vampire. That's probably our most successful current thing that we have, right? Is Interview with the Vampire. think they only have 10 episodes of that, if even. It might be like 8 episodes per season of Interview with the Vampire. Can you tell me if there's a single Interview with the Vampire episode that feels like filler or, it's just tacked on?
Like they've done episodes where they've given backstory, but even those episodes have like amazing moments or just such great acting that it like overwhelms what could possibly be a boring side plot.
Yeah.
Um,
See, but
whereas here, yeah, go
well,
ahead.
I was going to say, though, that like Interview with the Vampire and Yellowjackets have at least one thing in common, though, which is that with Vampire, you've seen the movie, you've read the book, I think, too, of Interview with the Vampire. You know everything that's going to happen. You're anticipating moments. With Yellowjackets, we've seen these characters in the present day, and we know certain things that have happened in the past. So we anticipate things to happen, right? Other shows, you don't have that foresight because there's no book that they're based on. And it's not like, here's the present day and now the story's in the past. It's just, here's the present day and we're going to see what happens, right? With that kind of here's the present day kind of feeling, you can go in all different directions. But when it's like, this happened in the past, you always have to like rectify, match the past to the present. And I think that that's a problem with like saying something's going to be like 5 seasons because you're like, okay, well, we have to hit these beats to get to this point here. And that's where you get this kind of lagging feeling because it's like they can't hit those beats right away because it's like too much. Like if they crash the plane and then like 2 days later, they're eating Coach Ben after they've like cut his Achilles tendon and stuff. It's too much. It's too crazy. You have to stretch it out. But unfortunately, what they choose to stretch things out with, at least in the present, it doesn't feel like it has any weight to me at all,
Yeah, I think the present day storyline has definitely been the lackluster one the last 2 seasons.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Seasons
Oh
2
yeah.
and 3, like they've there's like they had a cult on this show in season 2, and I feel like they just wasted the potential for that. But I also think that kind of comes back to the idea of like, oh, when you see a cult, you're led to believe that there's some kind of like supernatural force leading the cult, or like some god that they're worshiping, who's going to play a role. And I think that the writers are basically telling you there was none of that, and now Lottie's dead.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to find out that Lottie's death was a very, not natural, just human, like, whether she was pushed or hit on the head that caused her to fall down those steps.
Yeah.
I think we're going to find out that like, yeah, it's just a normal death and that there's no like, wilderness god that was protecting her.
Right. I
Kind of
honestly
thing.
think that it could be Shauna just because Lottie was getting so close to her daughter and that she had that necklace. She put the necklace on her, and that really seemed to upset Shauna a lot. But what I was going to say, though, Danny, is that with the main characters, the main survivors, when we watch them in the first season, you kind of have goofy but scary Shauna, goofy but scary Misty. Then Thaisa's story arc was so compelling because she was trying to be like a regular person, but there'd be these little glimpses into like, oh, there's something dark in her life. There's some kind of dark force. That was interesting. And then you have Juliette Lewis, who was still on. And like Juliette Lewis kind of brings this sort of sadness. Like you just kind of feel bad
Yeah,
for
she
her.
was the tragic. Her and Travis were the tragic
Right.
figures of the adults.
Right.
And
And so, like with the show, you had this dynamic where, yes, you had kind of goofy things. Misty always says some kind of goofy thing, or she does something over the top or extreme. And then Shauna, it was interesting when she thought that her husband was having an affair. That was an interesting little arc. And then, like, the whole blackmail idea and that the husband was involved in that was interesting. But for 2 seasons now, it's been like the husband's completely on her side and there's no dynamic there. It's just he's just following her around. And it's kind of boring. Whereas she thought he was cheating on her. She starts cheating on him. And then there's this blackmail thing in the middle. There's all this much more compelling stuff in the first season. And in the first season, there's less goofy stuff and more mysterious stuff and serious stuff. Whereas as time has gone on, it's gotten more goofy. I feel like the cult stuff was super fucking goofy. This
Yeah.
season is filled with goofy stuff. Go ahead.
One of the things that I thought that they could have done and that they still can do, and it's
Okay.
kind of weird that they've ignored, and it goes back to the Adams story. Like, one of the biggest obsessions of modern day streaming culture is true crime stories. So it's weird to me that the Yellow Jackets are just adults, are just allowed to live normal lives without almost being, I don't want to say media pariahs, but without having to constantly like go back to like be reminded of that life from just a regular world. Like it feels like in the show there should be a Netflix documentary be like or a Paramount Plus documentary being made about the survivors of the crash of 96 and where are the Yellow Jackets now. And I thought that would have been because I thought that was going to be the Adam story, that
Right.
he was like getting close to Shauna because he was obsessed with, and like I thought that Walter, like, you know, he gets close to Misty because he's like a one of these like podcaster type, you know, true detective people. So I thought that they would go into that arc a little bit,
Yeah.
and they never really do. And I feel like that's like a lost like chance to do something kind of interesting and cool with the adult characters,
Right.
where
Right.
like
Well,
maybe Shauna, so like my sister said to me, like it's almost hard to believe that Shauna made it back to reality, made it back to the world, and then became a suburban mom.
yeah.
And like it would be a lot easier to believe that if we saw her under a microscope of like it's Shauna Shipman, the Yellow Jacket captain of the crash of 96, and let's follow her around with paparazzi for a while. And if she's like, well, I'm constantly being watched, I have to be a boring suburban mom, so I'll marry Jeff, I'll have a kid, and I'll be so boring that they'll leave me alone.
Yes.
That would have been like a compelling arc to follow. And now we're just left with like, you know, 6 episodes in, and it's just starting to get remotely interesting with the adult characters.
Yes. Yes. That's a really, really, really good point. Like the idea of them being exposed or people being interested in the Yellow Jackets story, that's such a big part of season one. And it's kind of just been pushed to the side because they're just trying to address all these other little things that they've come up with, you know? And I think that that's the really interesting thing. What you said, where like people would be obsessed with their story, they'd be trying to make a documentary. I think you're totally right. And one thing I noticed with this season too, like when they had Nat's funeral in the beginning, they had the date, like she was born this year, she died this year. And it's still in the show, it's still like almost like 5 years ago. I think it's like, no, it's not 5 years ago, Greg, because that
I
would be
think it's like
20.
2022
Yeah, okay.
ish.
So like 3 years ago. Yeah. So it's not like modern day. It's still like it's only been a couple of months since like the beginning of the show, even though it's
Yeah.
been years for us. You know, so yeah, of course there's been like more Netflix documentaries and stuff like since COVID and you know, more in recent years. But still there would be people like obsessed with them. And that was one of the most interesting parts of the first season. I mean, I think that's the way the marketing was too, was that people were trying to like uncover the story of the Yellow Jackets. Now it doesn't really seem like people are trying to uncover the story as much as like people are just the survivors are just kind of dealing with what they brought back with them. And
No,
I
in
think
fact, if you look at the adults, there's literally only one character outside of like the people in their families and outside of the people who like knew like their Jeff's like chubby friend,
oh yeah,
that Randy, I think his name was, like
that
he
sounds
went
right.
to high school with them, so he knew them. Like there's nobody aside from Elijah Wood, aside from Walter, who even like seems to care
Right,
about the Yellow Jackets story.
right. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's I so you're saying there's 4 episodes left, right? They could maybe turn it
Yes.
around. It's funny, like what I was going to have is the thumbnail. I already made the thumbnail for this episode. When this goes up, I took a quote from Forbes. Forbes reviews Yellowjackets every week. And the quote for 2 episodes ago was, they just keep jumping the shark. So I feel like people are kind of dissatisfied with the show. They don't like the twists and turns that they've taken. To me, you're kind of making me more interested in the show. I think your sister probably does a good job helping you get that way. But it is kind of an interesting thing to watch the shift, like the story change focus from season 1 to season 3.
Yeah. I again, I will say, and I think we can kind of end it here, but like, I do feel like I'm going into a new episode next week with a sense of optimism. I'm actually now excited, where it's like, I got to be honest, like the last couple weeks, it's been like, oh man, it's Friday. Oh, I got to go home from work and then watch this so that I can talk about it on Saturday morning.
Right.
Now, the way episode 6 went, I'm genuinely excited to watch the next episode Friday night. I'm
Right.
genuinely excited to talk to you about it Saturday or whenever we talk about it next week.
Yeah.
And yeah, so they've gotten me back in. I'm not going to quit watching the show in the middle with 4 episodes to go in season 3.
Yeah.
But I will say that I do kind of feel like, depending on how long the break between seasons 3 and 4 are, and depending on the resolutions and the ending and the cliffhangers that they end season 3 with, that will kind of determine if I want to continue watching this show, or if we kind of come to a decision that we've done before with other shows where it's just like, you know what? Neither one of us seem to be enjoying this, so what are we doing?
Mayfair Witches.
Yeah, Mayfair Witches, yeah. We've had shows that we've enjoyed that got canceled after 1 season. Raised by Wolves comes to mind immediately.
2 seasons, yeah, but
2
still
seasons, yeah.
fucking
Still,
good.
like a show that if a network picked that back up, we would love to freaking cover that again.
We'd be on that, yeah.
There was like that Chloe Grace Moretz show that we watched for a season, and then
The Peripheral.
Yeah, and then it got canceled. Like, I don't think, because this show is on Paramount Plus, and because I think it's so deeply in the like, hey, subscribe to Paramount Plus, and you get to watch Yellowjackets. I don't think it's going to get canceled.
No,
but I do think that I do think a lot of the people who were into this show as much as you and Sherry, season 1, are a lot less interested in it.
Yep.
And I hope that this last episode was the beginning of like a really awesome second half of season 3 revival, and we get like some really crazy shit in these next few episodes. And I hope that when the season ends, I'm like really excited for the beginning of season 4.
Hell yeah. You know what? I feel the exact same way, man. I feel the exact same way. So the 2 shows that you mentioned, The Peripheral and Raised by Wolves, we actually cover them on the Lastercast. We covered them on Comic Books Transformed. That's
true.
my other channel. If you guys want to check that out, Danny's on there sometimes. My friend Brian is the co-host. Sometimes we have Mike Bongiorno, who's been on here before. He's on there too. But I was going to say, they should have some stuff to get excited about on our channel, right, Danny? You're always posting stuff. What you got in the pipeline for our channel?
Well, tomorrow, I don't know when you're posting this, or if we're live on YouTube right now. I'm not even sure.
I didn't put us on YouTube. I was worried we were going to get like technical issues.
No worries. So by the time this episode goes up, Charlotte and I will be at Monster Mania in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. We are going to be there Sunday, March 16th. Hell yeah. So we are very excited. We are planning on meeting A few people, they have a Return of the Living Dead 40th anniversary reunion with so many of the living cast members. Tom Matthews, Linnea Quigley, Miguel Nunez Jr., Alan Troutman, who plays Tarman, is going to be there. Charlotte is excited to meet Shawnee Smith, who plays Amanda in the Saw franchise. I
Oh, that's
don't
cool.
think that I don't think there's a 14-year-old alive who is into the Saw movies as much as Charlotte, which
That's
is
fantastic.
weird.
Yeah.
So there's that. So yeah, we're just really excited. I am sure we'll take some video. I'm sure we'll have some cool stuff to upload after tomorrow. Uh, and then we talked about it a little bit. You and I are going to record. We're going to watch Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me, the
Yes.
movie, and we're gonna record that. We did a little tribute to David Lynch earlier this year with Mulholland Drive.
Right.
Uh, and so there's that. And then, yeah, whenever I watch a movie, Charlotte and I did a review of the Final Destination franchise. That's up on the channel now. So
Yeah.
you can check that out. And yeah, there's a couple movies that I'm actually excited to get back into the theater to see. Twin Peaks completely derailed me as a movie watcher because I watched 30, 30 episodes of Twin Peaks in the last
Yeah.
2 weeks.
Oh,
Uh,
makes me so
so
happy.
yes. I am also strongly contemplating getting as my first tattoo a Bookhouse Boys tree.
Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah. I fucking
Jesus.
I love I texted my brother-in-law who is a diehard Twin Peaks fan
Yeah.
that I was like, I want to be a Bookhouse boy really bad.
Oh my God. That is so cool, man. Yeah. I mean, look, my new room, I got David Lynch right there and I got Stephen King over there. Like, ABC in the 90s because of Twin Peaks and then like the Stephen King miniseries, I feel like that affected us all as a culture. And, we still are kind of affected by that. And it definitely affected me. I'm really, really glad that you're into Twin Peaks as much as you are because we're going to cover Firewalk with Me. We're talking about maybe even covering Twin Peaks The Return, which is my favorite David Lynch thing. But I mean, there's other stuff too. Like we cover Lost Highway. That's a horror movie. There's other shit we could cover too. But, yeah, if you guys like this episode, make sure that you subscribe, and you can also leave comments. So we love your comments. Danny does a fucking awesome job writing back to y'all's comments. And, we'll just keep talking about the show. Hopefully next week we'll be a little bit more excited to talk about Yellowjackets episode 7. Thanks, y'all. Have a good time eating.